Well, good morning, everybody. In the Summer School for Pianists, here we are in the State Music Room in Stowe House. Now, Sir Richard Temple in 1679 commissioned a new house to be built here, which forms the core of the present building. And since we're playing Bach this morning, whose dates were 1685 to 1750, we're contemporary with the building itself, which is a marvellous feeling. Mark's going to play us the 11th Prelude and Fugue from Book 2 of the Well-Tempered Clavier of Bach. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark. Right, let's think about Bach's Preludes and Fugues, well-tempered clavier. Book 1 was written in 1722. Book 2 was compiled in 1744. Well-tempered refers to any one of a number of systems of tuning which would enable one to play in all keys, allowing each key to retain certain characteristics. There are a number of systems in use at the time. There was a system by Kirnberger, there was a system by Werkmeister, and Bach had his own system of tuning as well. And clavier refers to the keyboard instruments of the day. They wouldn't have had a beautiful Steinway piano as we are privileged to be using. They'd have had clavichords, which was the domestic German practice instrument, one keyboard and a very quiet sound. The notes were played by metal tangents on the strings. And of course, there were harpsichords as well, which had perhaps one manual or even more, which had more sounds, a greater range of sound. The strings were plucked by quills. In Bach's time, his Preludes and Fugues were not printed within his lifetime. Various copies were made, which you can download. Here's a copy, for example, made by his son-in-law, Alt Nicol, who was also a pupil of his. And if you go to the British Library website, there are digitized copies of the Preludes and Fugues, and you can actually see Bach's own autograph, his own writing for the Prelude and Fugue, and some of the bars are written by Anna Magdalena Bach, his second wife. Okay, so we didn't have a printed copy in Bach's time, we do now. It's important to choose a good edition, and Mark's got a very good edition here. He's got a Henley Urtext edition, and it's good not only because the printing is so good, but because it is very clear of editorial markings. What is on the page is what Bach wrote, and also there are good notes in the book to tell you about the different sources for the printing. Looking at the tempo, first of all, there is no tempo indication. But if we want to think what speed are we going to play, we look at the time signature. It's in 3/2, so it's 3 minims per bar, rather than 3 crotchets per bar or 3 quavers per bar. If Bach chooses 3 quavers, that's when he really wants it to move. 3 crotchets, not quite so fast, and 3 minims a little slower. So it's a gentle 3 in a bar. Interestingly, Bach didn't often write articulation marks in his music, slurs and staccatos. But in this Prelude and Fugue, we have both. We have some slurs at the beginning to show us that, contrary to the usual convention of playing the notes slightly detached, Bach wants us to join them, to make them legato. Right, off we go again then, please, Mark. Right, so we're at the end of the first phrase, and you can hear the rise and fall of each of these lines. Now, there are a number of voices of independent strands in this texture, and it's good to be aware of the shape of each of them so that there is a sense of direction and also a sense of the harmony. So we're starting off basically on a tonic chord. Play me a tonic chord, please, there, Mark. And we're ending the bar on a dominant chord of C major. So we've come on the journey from the tonic to the dominant chord. Now, Mark is slightly arpeggiating the chords in the right hand there. Although it doesn't have an arpeggiation mark, that again is a performance convention. And you can judge the speed at which you're going to arpeggiate the chords by how much you want to bring out the note at the top of the chord. So, for example, where you get that very colourful A flat, which then resolves to a G in the following bar, I would arpeggiate that really quite widely and perhaps imperceptibly in the chord before. So let's have that line again, and we'll have that sense of journeying, and we'll have those arpeggiated chords then. Okay, careful with too much rubato, won't you, Mark?
Yeah, sorry.
In Bach, yes. Slightly more metrical. Okay, on we go. Perhaps we'll just finish with that part and then going on, please. And resolve. Okay, that's it. Okay, hold it there. Okay, so we've come back to our feeling of home in F major. Now we're going to look at bar 5 and 6 in the left hand because we're going to think about Bach's articulation. Now, again, I mentioned that legato slurs unusually are marked here, but the performance practice with the longer note values was slightly to separate them. So I'd like you to try the left hand now, Mark, please, slightly separating those crotchets. Okay, anyway around there. And less. That's it. You shaped that beautifully. Okay, now both hands there so that with that added little bit of daylight in between those crotchets. So from bar 5. Right, thank you. Now, at the time that this room was built, we would have had a harpsichord in here, I imagine, and so the sound wouldn't have been quite as resonant as we have today. Let's try that second line again. With the articulation you did, Mark, but slightly less in your left hand. Yeah. Okay, now we're thinking about balance. What can we hear? And in order to get even greater clarity, let's tone down the left hand a little. Okay, and we've reached the end of the first period, as it were, of the prelude, the first main paragraph of it. Let's just again do some left hand then, from bar 13 in the left hand. Think of a cello playing that. Enjoy the fact that it's going down and then cadencing in C major. Give it a life of its own. Do that line again for me, please, Mark. And then you're going to become a little softer, and then we start the same musical material, but then we're in the dominant key. We're going to be in C major. So let's go again, please, Mark, from bar 13, that line, and going on. Playing it on this instrument, on this instrument, we're going to have a louder register just because of where it's written at this point. So I would definitely soften your left hand a little bit, Mark. Just the beginning of this new section, which is bar 17. This one, that's it. As we get more adventurous, as we begin traveling through different keys, a little bit more now of the bass notes so that we can hear where the cadences are. Please, Mark. So round about here. D. Well done. Now we're going to experiment with the speed now. We're going to just slow it down a little, thinking of those 3 minims in the bar, because it's getting very colourful now. Let's see what happens if we do it a little bit slower so that we can hear exactly where the beautiful turns of phrase are. So round about 25, please, Mark. So say ya da 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 ya da 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 da. That sort of speed. Da 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 ya da da da. I think it works. Yeah, I think it works at that speed as well. It works at that speed as well, okay? Because it's really quite rich harmonically. Now let's pick up, please, at 33. The texture is not quite so dense now, so a little lighter tone, perhaps. Just going to stop you there. I think that difference in tone made a good contrast for those earlier lines, Mark. Now we're looking at bar 41 and following now, and you'll see that we have an ascending sequence, 2 bars and then repeated higher, 2 bars and then 2 bars again. Each one builds on the previous one, and there is a feeling of growth here. So start a little bit under your dynamic that you're going to achieve in the end. So 41, please, Mark. And you can hear how we've reached the end of another section and we've turned now back into the home key. Now we have a really heightened harmonic effect just before the bar we've got to. We're poised in D minor for about 3 bars, but then in bar 53 we have an implied Neapolitan 6th chromatic chord, which adds to the richness of the texture there. I'm going to slow the tempo down again, please, Mark. From 41, ya da 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 ya da 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 dee da yam ba da da da. That sort of speed, okay? And thinking of building. Da da da. Left. Da dee da ya da 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 da. Off we go. I think in Mark's playing there's a wonderful sense of structure, isn't there? And a sense of direction. You can feel where you're going. You can feel where the harmony is going. Just before we play the fugue, I'll just make a quick comment about the appoggiatura in bar 66. 66? Yes, it's written as a quaver, but of course it wouldn't be played as a quaver. C.P.E. Bach, one of Bach's songs, probably would have played it as a minim, but contemporary writers of the time when this was being compiled simply leaned on it a little, which is, I think, what you're doing, which is quite enough. Right, on to the fugue then. Right, hold it there. Okay. Okay, so we've got a fugue, we've got 3 voices in this fugue, a subject which we're going to hear in all of those 3 voices. We're in 6/16 time, so we have 2 beats in a bar. It's a lively compound 2, and it's in the style of a jig. It almost sounds like one of the jigs from the French suites of Bach, so there's a dance-like quality to it. And just as Bach wrote legato slurs in the Prelude, which were unusual for him to write those, in the fugue, he's written staccato marks, ya-da-da-yum, ba-da-da-yum, ba-da-da-dum. Also, watch out that the subject here begins on an upbeat, ya-da-da-dum, so we've got to make sure that we know where the downbeat is. Paramount importance of that. Okay, off you go again. Not too loud at the beginning, simply for clarity's sake, I think, please, Mark. Yeah, I would shorten that a little, ya-da-da, short, ya-da-da, short. Da-da-da. Absolutely. Okay, now after we have the subject coming in twice, then we have a little episode where we don't have subject material. He's just playing, as it were, with the rhythmic motive. So when he's doing that, Mark, I would keep that quiet, and then that clears the air for our entry in the bass, our next entry in the bass, so keep it down. And also try for me in the right hand, ya-da-da short, ya-da-da da-dum, ba-dum-dum. Just a little bit of staccato, yes, separating between the cueva and the semiquaver. Just try a little of that, just to experiment. Da-da-da-dum, da-dum. Right, hold it there. I really like what you're doing here, Mark. Can you hear the voices coming in, answering each other, one leading the other in? Just show us that again, please, Mark. So round about 29. Can you take it at slow tempo so that we can follow it? Lovely. Okay, again, well done. You're following the harmony of it, so you can, yeah, the sequences are going up and you're expanding. That sounds terrific. All right, let's go again from 30 then at your original tempo. Again, please, Mark, from 45, show us what's going on in the left hand. In the left hand where they are, yeah, play it for us and we'll see what. Okay, now we've got our subject coming in. So a little bit less in your right hand there. And you can even, yeah, come down a little bit because we've enjoyed all of that bass register, but now we're in the tenor register, so let's just lighten it a little bit. Okay, get into that. And let's just see what Bach's doing there. Do you hear that low pedal point there? 61, 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, and then a rest, and then in comes our bass entry. So this is why these rests are so important, so that, again, it clears away the texture so that we can hear the entry of the subject there. Beautifully played, Mark. 61 again, please. Off. Da 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 da. Okay, and then at 76 we've got another low pedal point there, a long pedal point, and then he jumps right down. Quite a dramatic moment there, down to that D, and then even lower to C. Think of the harmony, it's the dominant of F major, so he's showing us that we're about to land on our F major tonic key, eventually. All right, 76, please. Yes, more of a rival when we actually get to the F major chord, I think. And enjoy all the little notes as well, those demi-semiquavers. Okay, yes, so can we go from the pedal point again, please, Mark, the 76? Okay. Yeah, you can practice that one, yeah. Bravo, bravo. Okay. And the only PS I would say is that, Mark, I think you can just slow down a little at the end, okay? Just a feeling of, you know, we've had this fantastic series of modulations. Ya-da-da-da-da-tum-pum. Let's see you do that. Just get into the end again. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make you do that once more. Okay. And off. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. That was great. That was great.